Hi everybody, it's Irene at BrainStorm Acres. This afternoon, because we're in between events and we don't have any events for a while, one of the things I'm trying to do is catch up on some of the repairs. Part of that repairs involves repainting some of my racks. I didn't bring you here to watch me repaint racks, but I did bring you here because I've had some questions about the racks that I use. Gosh, I don't even remember how many years ago. A long time, like 15 years ago approximately. Henry and I were going to our first organized event, and we didn't have any racks. We had a few trays. I don't think we had anything to hang things on, any of that sort of stuff. And we had to come up with ideas on how to make it work. It was an adventure, we were experimenting, and we didn't want to spend a fortune on displays. Now, if you've ever priced professionally made displays, they can be really expensive, several $100s for just something that would take up that much space on your table. So if you got a 6-foot table, you're like, I'm going to spend what to display a bunch of trays? And what we wanted to do is create something that would allow me to hold a tray, because this is your basic tray, and then you have some sort of a divider or something in it, on a bit of an angle. Not too much of an angle, because then everything would tend to fall down, but some sort of an angle. We had to figure out how to do that. We had some odd bits and pieces of scrap aluminum around, just right angles left over from an assortment of projects, and we decided to try and put together a rack. And this is basically what we came up with. It's a simple enough rack. The right angles go up on 3 sides and down on the other. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to put my tray in here, stand this up, and put something else under the edge of the rack where it goes down, and this will just literally hook on it. So that allows me to put a board. Let me just grab a 2x4 that I have over here. This is a bit squishy because it's been sitting long. I'm doing this painting in the boneyard, so you have to pardon the lack of tidiness over here. But that's all it does, is it literally sits like that and allows it to sit. This part sits on the table, the 2x4 sits on the table, and the tray sits in the rack. And that allows you to show your things on a slight angle, because that's an advantage when you're doing the display. Having some sort of three-dimensionality in terms of vertical display is a good idea. What I need to do now is I am touching these things up. The original racks that we made, let me see, do I have any here? I think one of them over here is original. What I'm doing is I have a bag over here that's used for storage, and it has multiple racks in it. And every single one I've pulled so far is all original construction, is all new construction, no original. Ha, there's an original. Okay. This particular aluminum is thin. It's only, oh geez, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. These were originally all pop riveted together. Well, over time, these take quite a bit of abuse because they bounce around in the truck. And over time, the pop rivets popped, and not in a good way. So what we wound up doing is drilling holes and simply replacing them. These are old stove bolts that I had from someplace random. So just a nut and bolt that would go through the hole. And that's what we do now. We just decided that the pop rivets were simply not sturdy enough, so it wasn't worth the effort. These have been bouncing around in the back of my truck, for our truck, for several years. They've been touched up. When I first got them made up, we tried to keep them absolutely pristine. And then we sort of realized that they don't show very much. What I'm doing right now is I'm using a sanding sponge to Just make sure that there's no loose paint. This, we use black chassis paint. So all I'm doing is I'm hitting the edges to make sure that there's no pieces of loose flaky paint. This does not have to be perfect. When your trays are actually in it, all you really see is this edge here, and honestly, I don't think most people even notice there's a rack there. I just like to be tidy. I constantly get compliments on how professional my displays look and stuff like that, and I want to keep it that way. And I can always just say, oh, thank you, and people will say, where'd you get them from? And I'll say, we made them ourselves. And then if they want to know how, I often will stop to take time to show people how they made it. It's not hard. This one's already been spray painted a little bit. It's got one spot that I can see I missed on it. And I don't know that that really makes any difference, but we'll hit it anyway. Okay. I want to start the season with everything pretty tidy. And I don't want drips. I hate drips. I would rather go over it more than once than have drips. Most of this is actually never seen, except by us, because it's actually underneath the trays. But it is nice to start the season completely tidy and all pretty. And to be blunt, let's see. The last time I repainted these was probably, wow, I would bet 6 years ago at least. So they've held up really well. And it's not that we're that, I mean, I try not to abuse them, but they do get abused. I actually had to repair one last year. Forget what fell on it, but something fell on it in the truck and bent it to the point where it was not worth repairing. It bent one of the sides. So I cut it off and replaced it with another piece of scrap. I have a little pile of scrap in the studio that matches this. And it works perfectly well. Good enough. Tidy, tidy. A little bit more over here. I actually wrote a whole bunch of blogs years ago on how we construct our tray racks and our vertical display boards and everything else. They should still be on the internet. I'll check and maybe we can put a couple of links to them, because if you're actually interested in the particulars of it, I know that a few people who've talked to me are artists of different types, and the display boards that we use, for instance, could be adapted to lots of different types of art, not just jewelry, paintings, and basically anything that you would put on a semi-vertical wall sort of a structure. But they're lightweight, they're easily transported, they fold flat, that sort of stuff. So I hope this inspires you to use your own brain to come up with some solutions. When I went looking for display equipment to show my jewelry, I could find lots and lots of things that were really, really expensive. To be honest, a lot of it was not even that attractive to me. I mean, it looked like it came from some mall jewelry store. And that was not what I was trying to portray, because I do, for those of you who don't know, I do jewelry, but although I do modern jewelry for myself and for some family members, the majority of the jewelry I do is actually historical reproductions of jewelry and things like dress hooks and stuff like that that people used pre-1600s to close their clothes and decorate themselves and that sort of thing. So it seems sort of garish to be using modern displays that were designed for the newest fashion in jewelry in the, 2000 whatever. And they were also really, really expensive. To have covered a 6-foot table probably $1,000 to get good displays. And when you're starting out and you're not sure whether you want to keep doing this or not, that's just too much to ask for most people. Doing things like this, you can still have a very nice, very professional display, makes it easy for the customer to see your stuff, but you haven't, sold the car in order to pay for them. I hope you guys find this interesting. If you do, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so that you can see what other crazy stuff we're doing around here, because we're always doing something crazy. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, let's see if I can get some more of this painted.